Good afternoon. My name is Rose Martinez. I serve as the director for the Bellwether College Consortium. I want to thank everyone who's joining us on the line. We will be recording this session so that for those of you who are not able to have your friends join, please they can reference our Bellwether College Consortium website and we will have this available for everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It's titled Cloud Migration. It features our 2020 Bellwether Award recipient in the category of Planning, Finance, and Governance. We are pleased to welcome our panelist, Ms. Linda Wu, who serves as the Vice President of Information Technology, and Mr. John Garnsey, sorry, John, Executive Director of Information Technology Services, both from Howard Community College in Columbia, Maryland. So welcome you all. Before I hand it off to our guests from Howard Community College, I wanted to briefly share a few Bellwether College Consortium announcements and updates. First, the submission portal for the 2021 Bellwether Award competition is now open. The consortium is excited to be hosting the 27th Annual Community College Futures Assembly in January of 2021. Now we know that we have the coronavirus issue that is spread across our nation, and so what we are doing is definitely working on the most prudent avenue forward, which may very well mean engaging in a virtual experience for the coming year, but still obviously still having a stellar group of speakers and presentations in the form of our Community College Futures Assembly. We look forward to receiving your submissions in July. I will be hosting a webinar for folks that want to provide a submission and just talk in general about some of the procedures we will have moving forward should you want to compete. But we invite everyone, if you're at a community college, whether you're in the consortium or not, to participate. We will be announcing the Bellwether finalists on October 30th, and we will also have registration open at that time. Our deadline for the Bellwether submission is August 20th, so please keep that date in mind. We will be pushing out information on the Bellwether competition in the very near future. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce our guests. Ms. Wu is responsible for Howard Community College's technological vision, providing direction to the college's information technology areas. She collaboratively develops the strategic planning, implementation, maintenance of the technology environment, ensuring that it aligns with the college's initiatives. Ms. Wu provides leadership to and is responsible for the success of administrative information systems, information technology services, the planning, research, and organizational development office, student computer support, and user and network services. So quite a lot under her belt. Welcome, Linda. And John Garnsey. He is the Executive Director of Information Technology Services, also at Howard Community College. John is the Executive Director of Information Technology Services. He is responsible for beginning to centralize and develop HCC's cybersecurity department and working with the Vice President of Information Technology to update the policies and procedures of the college accordingly. Mr. Garnsey is also responsible for assisting the VPIT in modifying the IT department's strategic planning to fit its challenging needs and the needs of the college, as well as reviews and also assessment of its various functions. He came to HCC in February of 2019 with extensive experience in information technology from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the U.S. Army. As a senior systems analyst, Mr. Garnsey has managed a nationwide public safety network and an enterprise acquisition information system supporting the agency's mission to regulate the nuclear energy industry. His last assignment was as a cyberspace operational planner in Army Cyber Command at Fort Meade, Maryland. Mr. Garnsey attended Panama Canal Community College. He went on to earn a bachelor's degree in international relations from Florida State University, a master's in computer resource management from Webster University, and has earned the Chief Information Officer certificate from the National Defense University. So a lot of rich knowledge with both of these individuals. I will go ahead and turn it over to them and look forward to their presentation.
All right, thank you. Rose, thank you for that great introduction. Really appreciate it. Really honored to be recognized this past year with the Bellwether Award. On behalf of the Howard Community College Board of Trustees, our president, Dr. Kate Hetherington, and our Vice President of IT, Linda Wu, I welcome you to our presentation today on Cloud Migration Project. Next slide, please. There we go. So this is a picture of our campus. And the top part of the frame, you'll see the quad centerpiece of our campus. At the very far end is our school library. To your immediate left is our Duncan Hall. This is our business and office technology education. To your right, right. To your right is our administration buildings, followed with our visual arts and performing buildings. In the lower left of the slide, you'll see our newest building on campus. This is our Science, Engineering, and Technology building, the SET building. And it teaches a variety of STEM courses. Brand new, it was finished in 2017. And we are teaching a lot of our cybersecurity classes as well as other STEM classes there. And then the final picture to your right is our Rouse Company Foundation building. We house the records registration, we house the student cafeteria, public safety, and of course our bookstores. Next slide, please. And so the college is located in between Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. We're almost equidistant, 30 miles to Washington, 23 miles to Baltimore. We were founded in 1970. This fall, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. Before COVID, we were looking at having quite a few festivals, open drive-in this fall, actually showing Jaws movie as part of that celebration. Very excited about the 50th anniversary. We have roughly 30,000 students participating in classes on Howard Community College. This is a mix of credit and non-credit students with 3 locations. The main campus is located in Columbia. We share a campus in Laurel, Maryland. It's called the Laurel College Center. And then we also have a continuing education center just outside of Columbia called the Gateway Center. And we conduct classes in all 3 of those locations. We offer a wide variety of degrees, certificates, and career training. And our student faculty ratio currently consists of 20:1. Next slide, please. So the college, in addition to being recognized this past year with a Bellwether Award, we were also recognized by the Baldrige National Quality Award in 2019. We were very excited about achieving this award. It came after many years of hard work by many people on campus. And we adopted the Baldrige approach to quality instruction, quality performance across the entire college. And so I just want to give you a quick overview of what that is. So Baldrige is a very process-centric process. We use 4 factors to evaluate our processes or our workflows. And these are really critical to helping the organization overall improve its performance. And so those 4 factors are, we use our approach, deployment, we learn, and then integrate. So this reflective process where we look at our workflows and our systems, we then identify strengths that we have in those processes, and then we also identify areas for improvements, and we continually work to continuously improve on those processes. And then we've taken that Baldrige approach and we tweaked it a little bit further, and we've adopted a plan, do, check, act process that mirrors the Baldrige process. And it makes it a little more understandable and easier to follow. Next slide, please. So in this slide, what we're showing you is an alignment of the Baldrige process and our plan, do, check, act process. So in the beginning of our projects, we go through these methodical steps. We look at the project or the process, make sure that we've got it correctly selected. We align it with the goals and requirements identified by the college goals and strategic plan and objectives. We use project management tools to make sure that we're staying on track. We assess and we benchmark against other colleges, our peer colleges in Maryland and outside of Maryland. So we're constantly checking our performance with our peers, and as a way of benchmarking. And then we receive a lot of feedback. We have several feedback systems in the college that continuously provide us information that we can use to make rudder adjustments on our plans and going forward. And then we make those adjustments and we go forward into the due deployment phase. And so we identify the solutions, we develop action plans, we work collaboratively to manage change across the college as we implement those solutions. As I said before, we have a lot of feedback systems. We're constantly reviewing data and trends from these feedback systems to understand the impact that we're making and how we can make those adjustments to improve performance. And we do this over a cycle or time and implement controls throughout our processes. And then finally, we integrate it into the college's operations. We have standardized process to do that. We monitor performances. We have another feedback system called vital signs. We provide vital sign reports back to our leadership and to stakeholders across the college. So we're constantly collaborating and communicating across the college. Next slide, please. And so I just want to give you a quick overview of, in this particular project, how that plan phase looked like. So there were a few factors that were driving the requirement to do cloud migration. One was outsourcing the patching and updating of the system by Lucian versus having it be a burden on the AIS staff. We improved our disaster recovery and backup of the system. That improved our security overall. And then we also cut down the cost of our infrastructure in the campus and improved service across the campus with the cloud migration. IT assessments are one of our feedback systems where we had an IT security assessment, recommended that we pursue disaster recovery in the cloud, and also identified several success factors with migrating to the cloud. You know, being able to have our service hosted, providing better services. And then the use of small cross-functional teams helped us really nail down those capabilities and capacities needed across the college when we migrated to the cloud. And then in the plan itself, you know, the senior leadership team committed to moving the plan forward in the same Baldrige approach. And then we negotiated a successful contract to migrate to the cloud. Next slide, please. And so here's some comments from our former Vice President of Information Technology, Tom Glazier.
Perfect.
We were looking at our current technology infrastructure. We were coming up with realizing maybe in a 3-year time period that we would have to make that investment again. We had completed several security audits on campus. So within those audits, a lot of questions came up of disaster recovery. How would you do business continuity if something happened to your colleagues' systems? Another item was staffing. With trying to patch the system, keep it up to date. It was very hard because the staff was staying up overnight doing patches and then trying to be back at work on Monday. And just bringing the staff and the college community together to keep the system up to date was becoming more and more of a challenge for us. We've had some very positive impacts on the college community. After we went to the cloud, we were getting emails from staff members on how well the system was working, the speed, the reliability that was taking place. And they've calculated that they were able to handle 200 more registrations over their normal 900 that they were doing. So we have seen a cost savings. I estimated about 1.3 million in cost savings. The savings with the infrastructure, because we're not going to invest in the infrastructure. We had a staff member that left, the database administrator, at the same time. We did not replace that position. So there's some human resource savings we're seeing too. I think the programming staff will continue to see benefits with the patching and the upgrades and the change management process that's in place.
Okay, I'll get back to the PowerPoint.
All right. So going to be followed by Linda Wu, the Vice President of Information Technology.
Great. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about our actual implementation. Our colleague environment, as you see on the slide, consists of 4 different modules. We own all of the modules of colleague from Ellucian, and it was about over 1 million records that we were moving to the cloud at the time we were moving them. So it was our entire administrative system that we were moving. But beyond the system itself, we also had a bunch of integrations and third-party software that we were looking either to move or to reintegrate, because with any integration, you're integrating from on campus now into the cloud. We had to look at each one of these and determine, are we going to move them? How are we going to reintegrate them? Or are we going to do away with and not use them? So as part of the planning process, we had to look at all of our systems that was integrated with our information system. And then our planning process started with senior leadership developing a steering team. We wanted to make decisions and plan in a very systematic way. So our steering team consisted of all of the vice presidents of the college, as well as all of our senior leaders, our AVPs, associate vice presidents, our directors, and our associate directors. And the reason we brought all of these people, and we did have a very large steering team, was because we wanted to make sure all of the decision makers were at the table, that if we needed to make a decision or if we had an issue, or as we're building our timeline, we wanted to make sure that everybody involved had a say, so that they could put their needs and requirements into it. And so the goal of the steering team was to meet regularly, but also to do the planning for the project, to develop a timeline, to build the requirements, and to make sure we have the deliverables. We did an impact analysis and then ultimately created a communication plan. All of this was also done in conjunction with Ellucian, because we had not only our technical architect meeting with us, and he often came in person for these meetings. We also had our Ellucian project manager as part of our steering team. So they were always on the call with us so that they could hear some of the issues that were coming up in our steering team meetings. Beyond the steering team, we also had a project team, which included our technical team. So on a weekly basis, we were meeting with Ellucian to talk about all of the technical needs of the team and of the project. And we were working through all of the different issues that came up. We were meeting regularly with our technical team as well as our steering team, to make sure that if anything came up and may affect the timeline, that we were addressing it as soon as we could. And we were talking all the time. And so that was a big thing, that we were communicating and partnering in this project, that it wasn't their project or our project, we were doing it together. One of the other things that we did was we engaged Ellucian's consultants to come and help our users with business process assessments, so that they got a chance to take a look at their processes and say, is this something that's still working? Is it still something that we need? And as they're working through this with their consultants, they were also building standardized test plans. And we standardized test plans across the entire institution through this project, so that anytime anybody could need to test something, they had a plan that they could go to. The other thing that these test plans did was gave us the opportunity to really identify some of those areas where might have fallen through the gaps. So for example, one area may think that they're testing, that another area is testing a particular process and the other area is thinking that they are. So by going through this analysis, that we were able to catch all of the different areas that needed to be tested, and somebody was assigned to that particular piece so that everything was tested properly. We actually, through this project, had 3 major testing times. We had a validation testing, a full functional testing, and a go live testing. And we use these standardized plans for all 3 of those testing periods. Just to give you an idea of what we talked about at our steering team, you know, we wanted Ellucian to understand how they needed to work with us and how we could work with them to support all of the transitions that was going to happen. We wanted to perform stopgap analysis to identify any gotchas with interfaces. Because we had a large number of interfaces, we wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to talk about their specific interface so it didn't get left behind. And oftentimes we actually brought the vendors of the interfaces into these meetings to talk with them and into our technical meetings so that we were engaging multiple areas and multiple people to make sure that it was working properly. We also were asked to use the Ethos Identity single sign-on system from Ellucian. This is not a system we had used before or implemented. So we wanted to make sure we talked through all of the gotchas on that and how it was going to be implemented with everybody. As part of the steering team, we looked at blackout dates, and we looked at, based on those blackout dates and other department dates, we identified 2 migration dates. Our first migration date was in mid-July, and that was our go live date. And then we had our second one as our backup, just in case something happened and we weren't ready, we could pull the plug and then go to our second backup date. During the discussion of dates, we wanted to make sure that we supported the areas in their blackout dates because they're still working, they're still enrolling students, and we wanted to make sure that we knew what dates that they could not be part of the project so that we didn't put something that was important that required their help during those times. So we were working with the departments and communicating the entire time so that they felt like their needs were addressed as well. Our monthly meetings, we always reviewed what we did the last 4 weeks and what we're going to do the next 4 weeks. That way we were always communicating with our stakeholders what we've already done, what we have accomplished, but what we needed to do and what were some goals for the next 4 weeks. They had an idea of basically a timeline, and if we were falling behind on a timeline, how are we going to catch up? And I talked about the importance of standardized testing, test plans, and it was a tremendous help when it came to testing. The way we develop our standardized test plans was such that if somebody wasn't able to do testing during that time, somebody else could potentially pick it up. So we were able to identify an owner of a process and then a backup, but that owner also had to identify all the steps into testing that particular process and required outcomes. So we are still using that today. When we have all our patches or system changes, people pull out their standardized test plans and they use that to test because we require sign off for anything that gets loaded into our production environment. So we were also managing at the same time multiple other projects. And so we wanted to make sure people knew the status of the other projects that were going on. And some of those projects were due to the fact that we're going to the cloud and we needed to potentially upgrade to a more current version, or we actually ended up putting other things in the cloud at the same time. So we needed to work through some of the integrations now that we're pushing other services to the cloud. So we were timelining everything out so that everybody, like I said, had understood and were communicated with what our processes were and what was going on with other projects. And then at the very end of this particular project, we had our lessons learned. We try to often celebrate our successes and opportunities for improvement so that we can take those opportunities and integrate them into our next project. And this is just a sampling of our steering team members. And you can see these are the titles of who we had on our steering team, and you can they were definitely decision makers. And this wasn't all of the steering team either. This just gives you an idea. And then this is a sample of our test plans. As you can see on here, we identify not only who owns the process, but also who their area vice president, supervisor, and the functional supervisor. And what we had tasked the functional supervisor to do was be our communication partner. They would make sure that anybody who wasn't at our either technical meeting or steering team meetings, they were letting them know what they needed to do for testing or what the next steps were. So we use our functional area supervisors as also a way for us to communicate to people who may not have been at the meetings. So our communication tools, so we communicate as much as we could beyond the steering team meetings. We also, as we were getting closer and closer to our go live and our testing was very positive, we started to send out emails to students, staff, and faculty. Because this is our information system, we knew it was going to go down. We wanted to make sure to include the students as well, that it wasn't just a staff faculty email. We also had announcements on our college website, our MyHCC, which is our internal portal, and Canvas, which is our learning management system. So we were putting announcements out there as much as we could. And we also have monitors across campus. And so we would put messaging up on our monitor so that as people walk by, they could see it. We have a president's update that happens every Friday, and messaging went at our president's update. We also redirected our internal portal and other resources that were affected so that in case there was a resource a student could still access that was not impacted during the upgrade, we gave them the ability to be able to access it while we had taken our information system down. All of our messaging began June 29th, and which was 2 weeks before we were ready to do our go live. And so our final message was June 16th when we actually went live, and all systems and all services was restored. Our go live date, we took the system down starting July 13th, and then we worked through the weekend, worked through all the testing, the migration. And then based on all of the sign off that we received, we were able to go live on July 16th with actually no issues. There was very little feedback on system issues after July 16th. So we are very big on making sure that we're monitoring system performance, reliability. We're always looking to make sure that the system is up. Because it is our information system, the business flows through it. So we're constantly reviewing, and we, after we went live, we were meeting with our Ellucian technical staff on a weekly basis to bring up any potential issues that we might have seen that the end user may not have. So from a technical perspective, you're able to sometimes see system issues before they become major issues. So oftentimes we go through those and get them fixed before anybody really even realized it was a problem. We also defined how we were going to communicate system issues with Ellucian. And then we established how we were going to do change management. We're very formalized on our campus on how we do change management, that everything goes through a QA process before it even gets released to the end users, who then test the process, signs off before we move it to production. And so we wanted to partner with Ellucian to make sure that our change management process met their needs, but also that they could continue to keep with our change management process. And it worked out really well because they've actually adopted quite a bit of what we're doing internally for their change management process. And we also assess, the performance, the user performance, to make sure that we didn't have bottlenecks or anything like that going to the cloud. And the biggest thing is that we monitor. We knew that in September we were coming to our first registration in the fall registration. It's always a little tough. The system always slows down. So we were putting everything we could in place to monitor performance, to make sure that we had extra server power in preparation for fall. And it actually worked out quite well, as you heard in the video from Tom. And so this is the Director of Administrative Information Systems, Tabitha Harry. She has a quick video.
In moving our colleague system to the cloud, one of the things we wanted to make sure we did was continue fostering our partnership with Ellucian. We did this by meeting weekly with their cloud assurance manager as well as with their customer success manager. In these meetings, we like to review our academic calendar so they're aware of our peak processing times of the year. We discuss our priority 1 incidents, that way we can put preventative measures in place. We go over our ticket items as well as discuss our future patch plan and our maintenance schedule. And we discuss any upcoming projects so we have resources properly allotted. One of the most important things I think we do as a cloud client is we work on process improvements with Ellucian, and I think that's truly helped us become successful in this environment.
So like Tabitha said, we're always partnering with Ellucian to make things better. Like system performance at the beginning of the fall semester for once we went in the cloud was exceptional. It was phenomenal. We were buzzing like it was any other day of the year. Like Tom had said in his video, we had over 200 more registrations in one day than we had before. People were telling us, I didn't even realize you were in the cloud. I didn't realize it was the first day of the semester. The system was flowing so well. We didn't have any hiccups that first week, which is normally the week that is a lot of issues, but in system slowness, and we didn't have any of it. So we had a lot of emails commending us for that move and how well it went and how well the system was performing. So this project did allow us to save $1.3 million in long term. We did not have to replace any of the hardware that was on site once we moved to the cloud. And there was a position that we didn't ultimately replace when the person left to seek other opportunities. So Ellucian and Howard Community College have partnered on many projects now and has asked us to talk about how our process in being it was so systematic and so well planned out and how successful it was for our cloud migration project. And we've had several times where we've talked to other clients about that process. And then at the very end, our steering team met again to do a lessons learned and then identify any opportunities for improvement. There's another this is from our registrar, Cheryl Cudzillo, who, this is a testimonial video.
Hi, I've been here at HCC for 8 years now in the Records and Registration Office. Every start of term has been pretty crazy here with long lines of 20 to 30 students in line to do something just as simple as get their schedule printed. Before we went to the cloud, that was pretty challenging for us. The system would be so overwhelmed that it would sometimes take 15, 20 minutes per transaction per student. So our line would just increase even for just the most basic of transactions. When we planned to go to the cloud in 2018, I was pretty skeptical that anything would be different. But come start of term for fall 18, there was literally nothing to complain about. Our transactions were fast. There was no system slowness to the point that folks in my office were kind of looking at each other like, why are there no problems to report? It was terrific. Our AIS, Administrative Information Systems Office, was so supportive, checking in with us every day. How's everything going? How is everything working for you today? We didn't have anything to report. It was great. This award is well-deserved, and we appreciate everything.
And then this is our director of UNS, and he oversees our network. And his team had to work closely with the cloud team to ensure that everything worked properly.
Hi, I'm Mike Heimmuller of User Network Services. Colleague in the Cloud has meant that my group has been able to free up a lot of resources, both in funding and in manpower, because we no longer support 42 Windows servers and the colleague servers, and all the infrastructure that includes, and all the back-end services that includes, the backup schedules, the updating, and everything else like that. And so because of that, we were able to spend those resources in other directions. That's been beneficial for the college. So Colleague in the Cloud, from my perspective, has been great.
And that is it. So this will play in the background. If you have any questions, I can answer them. But this is actually a slide that slideshow that we went around taking pictures as people were testing for Go Live, so that when we had our lessons learned meeting and celebration, people got to see a little bit of what other people were doing. So, is there any questions at this point?
Great. I just wanted to say to thank you to you both, because this was very impressive. And you know, as the director of Bellwether, unfortunately, I don't have a chance to actually even see the presentations, which just sounds odd when you think about it. So this is my first time looking at it prior to Linda sharing her slides yesterday, but so much more in depth when you listen to you both. So I commend the progress and just the heavy lift. I mean, you can see just hearing and how you were very structural and systematic and comprehensive in what you did and how you did it. So it probably left not a lot for error, and that shows. But I know there's a lot of heartache there that we on the back end, but certainly very, very impressive, and something that I think when you think about Bellwether and really what we try to get at is how this can be replicated, right, at other places, because it's wonderful. It's a wonderful win for Howard, but it's even better when it can be communicated and shared with our consortium members and those that aren't in the consortium. So kudos to you both. I actually had a question, and I'll start it off, and it's more about you talked about the Baldridge work that you'd done, and I'm assuming that was done prior to. So did that help stimulate a lot of how this was organized, or was that a Lucian coming in and also kind of being hand in hand helping, or both? Can you share a little more about that?
Sure. It's actually both, but we have been pursuing the Baldridge Award for 13 years. And so in those 13 years, we had put a lot of processes in place, and we had learned a lot from doing things systematically. And so going into this project, we had taken things from other projects, opportunities for improvement that we had learned, and built this project in a way that we knew we had this the process down. So the approach was set, just like John was saying, you know, the deployment, the learning, we do the PDCA, and we follow those steps with this project. Lucian has a project manager, and they have a very well spelled out project. So they have a project plan, but what they did was, for us, because we had such a well-defined process, we mirrored and partnered so that they worked with us on it. So they modified their project plan to our process.
Interesting. Yeah, sounded like you may have taught them a little something about the process.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the planning process and implementation.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone that else has a question? I just want to give pause. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I just wanted to again reiterate, this is going to be available on the website. And so Linda and John, if you want to share it, obviously it's yours as well. I mean, it's all your good work. Thank you so much. We appreciate it on behalf of Bellwether College Consortium. And we hope to hopefully see you in 2021, whether it's virtual or in person. But thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this concludes our webinar. Robert, if you can just pull up my information in Bellwether's. Perfect. Okay. So just wanted to reiterate, the submission process is open, and you can go to our Bellwether website. It's a very quick process in terms of the first submission. That'll be the first round that our judges will look at, and then those 30 finalists will be invited after August to participate in the full competition happening in January. Please, we welcome your